Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you how to fit your Shimano 105 R7150 Di2 rear derailleur to your bike. So let's go ahead, let's run through the steps. So here we have the derailleur, so I'll just show you off the bike. So you've got a 5mm hex head there to mount it onto your derailleur hanger. And then when it mounts onto the derailleur hanger, you've got the bump just there, and that'll be touching the hanger on your bike. So that can be removed, this part here. If you've got a direct mount frame, you just undo that 5mm there, and then you can remove this piece if yours is a bike. This uses direct mount system. Normally you'd be using this piece on most bikes. So it mounts on with that 5mm. The adjustment screws, 2mm hex heads, Allen keys. So B screws up there, and then you got the high and the low screw there, so I'll get into those when we're fitting it. You got the cover there for your charging point on the back for your cable. Everything's done through the rear derailleur on these, so it's charged through the derailleur. It clips on like that. Then you got your function button, which is under there, that one there, and then the LED light is on the top here to show what mode you're in on the derailleur, depending on what colour it is, flashing or solid light on there, and the LED. So that's the derailleur itself. Now in the box you'll get the tool like that for the connecting it up or disconnecting the wire from the derailleur. Then you get the gauge like that for the adjustments. I'll get into that later on. Then you get a little clip like that for the cable for the wire. So that I'll fit it later on, but that goes in that hole just there. So that'll go in that hole there. And that's to tidy up your cable if you need it. You might not need to fit it, but you may have to fit that, so it goes in that hole there. And then you get a little rubber grommet like that slides over your cable to keep the water out. So let's go ahead, let's get this fitted. So the first thing we need to do is connect the derailleur up to the hanger. So that's a 5mm hex there. And like I said before, what you want to do is make sure that it's hitting against there, just that piece here with the raised bump on it there, is touching against your hanger there at all times. So you don't need a gap between it, it's got to be touching. So what you want to do is start screwing that in. You can put a bit of anti-seize on the thread as well, just stop it seizing up a later date. And then just have a look down the back there and keep winding it in. And if you just hold the derailleur away from it, and when you got it in so far, you can push down on it like that, and then pushing down on this bit here while you're tightening it up to stop it moving away, because as you're tightening it that way, it tends to lift this up slightly away from the hanger. So you just push down on that while you're tightening it up. So just nip that up there, and then with the torque wrench torque that up 8 Newton meters. Just torque that up like that. So that's the derailleur actually connected onto the bike. So as you see, we've got the wire coming through for the derailleur there. So you get your little rubber grommet that goes over that wire there. So you get that out of the way like that, so it's on the cable ready. And then we just hook that wire up. So you just put it on your tool like that, and then offer it up and just push that home. See a green light flashing on there. So that's connected. Make sure it's connected properly. And then slide your grommet down over it like that. And then just pop that in place on the actual, over the wire. Snug fit. Goes on there like that. So that's over the wire now, covering it up. So that's that on there, and the derailleur is actually hooked up. So with the derailleur, what you need to do is obviously pair your shifters with your rear derailleur. So with the app on your phone, you can go into that app. If you with Bluetooth, you can connect it as well with your phone to make sure. So you need to connect it, obviously it's wireless with your shifters, so you need to hook those up, make sure you pair it so the shifters are both working. So you try the rear shifter, make sure it's working with the derailleur, and then also the best thing to do is with Bluetooth is check that the derailleur on the app has got the latest software in it, because the derailleur might have been on the shelf when you bought it. It could have been on the shelf for months, so it probably wants updating before you actually install it. So make sure that it's got the latest software in it, and also make sure your battery is charged fully. So what you want to do is charge it and make sure it is charged, your battery, because it charges through the rear derailleur. So you can't charge it otherwise, unless obviously it's connected to the rear derailleur, because it charges through this. So make sure it's fully charged before you start doing any setups and things like that. So now we know the shifter is working for the rear derailleur. So if you press it, it'll move. So what you want to do is make sure it's shifted to the 11.2 for the back, and then we can set up the high and low adjustments and the B screw adjustment. So we're on the 11.2 still, and we're directly behind the derailleur. So what you want to do is just push down on your cage like that until it hits the stop, and then what you're looking for is make sure that the guide wheel, so the top wheel there on the cage, is directly underneath the 11 tooth at the rear, like that. So if yours needs adjusting, what you do is just go to your high screw like that, and then if you turn that clockwise, it'll move the cage effectively towards the wheel. So if you keep screwing that in, then it will start, eventually it'll move the cage over towards the wheel, and obviously if you do it anti-clockwise, it moves it back the opposite way. So all you need to do is set it so it's directly underneath the 11 tooth like that, and then once you've done that, you're happy with that, what you do is you just go up to your shifter then and shift the derailleur across till it's underneath the largest sprocket. So we shifted that over, so I'll just move the camera so you can see it. So we shifted that over, and same thing again, the derailleur just be flopping like that. So if you hold it up so it hits the stop, and then have a look at your the guide wheel there, and make sure it's directly underneath the, say your 34 or your 36, whichever cassette you've got on the back, make sure it's directly underneath. If it's not, all you do is go to your low screw again, then you may need to wind it in a fair way until it hits the adjustment, to effectively until it does anything. So you wind that in. If yours isn't directly lined up, then you just keep winding that in, and then basically if you turn it clockwise, it moves it over towards your frame, so out to the right, that's clockwise, and then if you move it anti-clockwise, obviously it moves it back towards the wheel ever so slightly. So you just adjust it until you're happy that it's directly underneath the, say, 34 at the rear. So once we've done that, see, that's high and low adjustments done. So then we can check the B screw adjustment, which is that one up the top there. So we're still shifted over underneath the, say, 34, 36, whatever you've got. Then all we do is hold the derailleur down like that, so it's hitting the stop, which is the B screw stop, like that. And then what you do is you can just push down on it, won't make no difference. This always stays in the same place here, if you're pushing down on that or not. If you let go, it's still the same, as long as you're holding it against the stop up here. Then you get your gauge, and obviously on it it's got 34 and 36 on there, so it corresponds with the cassette. So you just rest that on there. So it's got plate written on it and an arrow, so on the plate like that, and then you can see if it needs adjusting or not. So if the gap's too big, like it is there for instance, you can see it's nowhere near right, so you need to adjust that. So to adjust it, what you want to do is go to your B screw there, like that. So we can adjust that without the chain being on there. Obviously you can do it with the chain. If you wind it clockwise for instance, it's going to make the gap here bigger, and if you wind it anti-clockwise, it's going to make that gap smaller. So you can just wind that. In this case it's anti-clockwise, yours might need clockwise, just depends on which cassette you got. So you can wind that like that. I'll just do it anti-clockwise, and you can just check it. If it needs any further adjustment, just rest that on there until it's in line. So either clockwise or anti-clockwise, depends on which cassette you've got on your bike. Now if you haven't got this gauge, all you need to do is get a ruler or tape measure in there and just measure that gap between there and there. So if you add a 34 cassette on there, it's a 10mm gap, and if you add a 36 cassette on there, it's a 6mm gap there to set that up if you didn't have the gauge for instance. So just adjust that until you're happy with it, and then we can get the chain on there. So we fitted the chain on there. We're still on the largest at the rear, as you can see. So I'll shift down now, shift down to the 5th one on the cassette. So you're already on effectively 1. So count that as 1 anyway. So 2, 3, 4, 5. So we shift down to there. So now we're in that setting there. What we need to do is just do the fine adjustment on there, the setting. So obviously in that setting there, I can pedal, but I can hear that it's not quite in the right place. If you can hear that on camera or not, it's just running slightly out. So to make the fine adjustment on it, what we do is, with your function button on the derailleur, so what you do is with that function button, you just press and hold the button for say just over 2 seconds till you'll see a light come on. You might see it reflected in the cassette. So we do it, or do that and see if you can see it or not. So it flashed blue there, and then as you can see there, it's gone to a yellow colour. You can see that. So that's in adjustment mode. So pedalling, what you do is go up to your shifter, then using your shifter, because it's in that mode, you can use your shifter as you would shifting up and down the cassette. It makes the fine adjustment. So I'll just click it, as you can hear there. So if you overdo it, you'll make it worse, as you can hear. So that's going back up the cassette effectively. It's just rubbing now. So all I do is use the other paddle, click it a handful of times, and you want it running smooth. As you see, it's quiet. So if you overdo it, so that's running quiet there like that. If I overdo it the opposite way, effectively, so I'm shifting down to the 11 tooth, but it's in the fine adjustment mode, so it's not shifting the whole derailleur, it's just shifting in small increments. So I'll keep pressing it, and and it'll make it worse. Like that. You can hear that. I'll just keep pressing it. There you go. So you know that's not right. So I'll click it back up the other way as though I was shifting up the cassette to the largest. So I'll just click it back. And there it's nice and quiet then. So that's how you just micro adjust it. And like I say, it's got so many adjustments in increments using your shifter to the left and the right. So if you set it up, and the reason you got it on the on that particular sprocket on the cassette is it's on the inner one at the front, inner chainring at the front. So when it's on the inner chainring at the front, that particular one there is the straightest chain line from the front to the back to set it up on. There's no good setting it up there or down there because the chain line's not optimal. So the reason it's on that one is because it's the straightest chain line to do it on. So like I say, it's just micro adjustments either way. So when you got it running smooth like that, then what you can do is obviously check that it goes from the top all the way, changes gear as it should all the way throughout the range. You see then it just went blue and now it's gone off. That means if I pedal now, then it will change gear on the shifter as it would normally. Like that. Like so, so it's just a case of checking and make sure that you're happy. Try it on the outer chainring at the front as well. Just a case of making sure you're happy with those. So now you're happy with your fine adjustment, what you want to do is shift up to your largest sprocket at the rear, and then with your low screw, which is the bottom one, just make sure that up in here where it comes through, it's just making contact in there, which it should be. So just check that, and then once you check that, shift down all the way down to your smallest, your 11 tooth, and then we'll check the high screw. So now we're on the 11th tooth. What you want to do is check your high screw, which is the top one there. So what you need to do is back that screw off one full turn. So just back that off a turn like that, and that just allows for the overstroke on the derailleur. So you back that high screw off one full turn. Also remember, you got your clip there for your wire if you need to use it, so that just goes in the back there in the hole. Then you can tidy up the wire so it keeps it out of the way from any damage like that. So basically that's the installation of the derailleur complete. Remember, you can always use the app on your phone as well to further adjust the settings, your particular settings, how you want it working. So you can go on there and have a play around with that as well. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.